Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz test postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 396. My opponent was white and kicked off with the unusual move G3, Benko's opening. So I played D5, which turns out to be the main response. You can also just reply symmetrically with G6 and see what your opponent has in mind. Probably Knight F6 is a reasonable move there too. But anyway, D5 seems like you're just going to set up. Obviously white is planning to put his bishop on G2, so you're just trying to set up a little defensive wall here against the bishop and keep it hemmed in. And now my opponent continues his slightly unusual play. Normally white would continue developing the knight or the bishop at this point, but he plays the move C5, C4, going after the pawn that I stuck up here. So I could reply with E6, or I could just take it. The engine actually likes taking it. I replied with C6 instead of E6, just shoring it up. And now he does bring the bishop up. I bring my knight out. And now he plays Queen B3, another unusual move. And after E6, we're pretty much out of the opening book. Once again, the chess engine likes taking the pawn here and force the queen to move again, or even playing aggressively with E5. But, well, I don't know. In an unusual position, it's tough to play that aggressively. You don't really know what all the tactical traps are, especially in a blitz game where you don't have time to think it all through. So just playing solidly isn't bad, and it leaves me with some advantage. So we're out of the opening book. And let's see. This is kind of a long game, so I'm not going to go through all of the ins and outs move by move, but I'll just give kind of a overview and then point out some of the turning points. Because of my opponent's opening play, I get some kind of advantage, but we trade queens early and it turns into kind of a long struggle. But I missed several chances. I could have converted to a win much easier, and in the end actually get into an endgame which is completely drawn. So I really blow it with this game, but then my opponent doesn't play the endgame correctly. So we'll look at a couple of those turning points along the way. For now, we'll take a break and play some normal moves here. Knight C3, getting pieces out. Bishop E7, E3, preparing D5, which you could probably have played right away. Castling, and Knight F3. So we're finally getting to what looks more like a normal position. And Queen B6, I decided to play this. It looks like that was not a good decision, but I really didn't know what my plan was here. The engine is recommending D5, B5, or the exchange D takes C4. Yeah, I guess of these moves, the exchange makes the most sense. I still have a couple of pawns here in the way of that bishop, so it's not going to be gaining in strength that much, and it does force him to move his queen again. After D takes, here, let's take a look at this a little bit. After D takes C4, Queen takes C4. I mean, the engine wants to play this move B5, which is seems like a really weakening move. This pawn on C6 is going to be forever a problem after that, or A5 or B6. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an annoying position, actually. I want to get the move E5 in to liberate this bishop rather than move the queenside pawns, which seems would just create weaknesses. But anyway, that is why I went ahead with the queen trade. And so after this, I still have some kind of advantage. It comes and goes. So let's go through. I get my pieces out. Well, right here. One chance. Okay, the engine is pointing out I could have picked up a pawn right here and he can't easily recapture it. I grab the pawn a few moves later. He plays D4 and then I take it, but he can round the pawn up with his knight. But we come out, he places his knight here, and it's going to get that pawn. I mean, I could play, the engine is recommending the crazy move B5 to try and hold on to the pawn. I could play like that, but it seemed more reasonable just to keep developing my pieces, get the knight on a good square. And he finishes getting his pieces out. And now I decide to chase off this strong knight, and so he finally grabs the pawn. So, okay, we're in a position which is about even. He makes... okay, I played B5 here, finally kicking the knight. The knight went Okay, he exchanged on d5. He takes. Thought this was going to be okay for me. Knight a5, going after these pawns here, but his knight is kind of out of play. These pawns are pretty solid. Knight f6. And b4. Oh, it's his turn. b4, yeah. I would play b4 if he didn't stop me, so that's probably a good move here. But, well, there are some weaknesses in his structure. He's got a hole here that I can go for. So a knight maneuver like this is looking very appealing to me at this point. But he has knight maneuvers too. He can bring his knight back here to here, which I didn't really appreciate fully, but let's see. Well, it's my turn, and I start with knight e4. I go this way, another way to get to that square. And he plays knight to b3. Okay, rerouting his knight, trying to get it to a better square. b6 to keep him out of it. And yeah, you see, right now I've reached that point of the game where I have a kind of a stable advantage just from my better pieces and pawn structure, and I just need to try and figure out how to convert it. Mainly, this turns out to be just looking for mistakes. Cancel that. He went to c1. Get my bishop out. And he played bishop to b2. Rook ac8. Cancel that. And rook fc1. I'm moving the wrong pieces. Okay, so h5, I decided to try and create some weaknesses over here on the king side, and he goes rook c2. So right here, I should have thought a little bit about what the best discovery is. There's an attack here. And I just was using this as an opportunity to route my knight here with tempo, which is what I did. But I could have just grabbed a pawn here, and that certainly would have been an easier way to play this game. Give me a nice edge there. He's just got to move the rook, and then my knight comes back to a good square on e4, and I've snagged a pawn. And it's over on his king side, so it's a good position for me. Okay, I went knight d6. And, well, it's still a good position because I've got this great knight here, and he doesn't have a corresponding good piece. So I'm in good shape for the game. And I never really give up the advantage until much closer to the end. But I just keep passing up these opportunities to really put the game away. Let's see, let's back up. There was a chance there. c5. Yeah, I was thinking about c5. c5 is one of those moves you always need to calculate and see if you can break through with it. If you get these pawns out of the way and get these queenside pawns rolling, his rooks can be caught in a bad situation. Also, I wasn't appreciating there's a pin along this diagonal, so he really can't take with both pawns. He can only take with the b pawn. So then I take back, and I'm hitting at his d pawn. So that's another chance I missed. Okay, but the game continued, and right here he managed to get a passed pawn, and he could have yeah, so I've given up the advantage here. I've let him get this passed pawn, and he needs to really hold on to it. Now it's a little bit awkward. My bishop is controlling this square, so he can't just bring his rook over, but the chess engine suggests the way to try and hold on to it is to play actively with the e4. How about if I take it? Bishop takes. Yeah, this leaves all my pawns weak. Rook takes c4. Now his rook is going to be able to come over and get behind his pawn. So after e4, I should drop my bishop back to e6 and try and hold on this way. But yeah, this strong pawn here is a threat. So I say play, oh, it's his move. He goes rook back to c2. Okay, and then he tries to bring his rook over this way. Instead, he pushed on with the pawn, which I always say passed pawns must always be pushed, but of course you should only push them when it's safe. And so now I can round up this pawn. You see the advantage is switched back to me. So I gave him an edge there by giving him that passed pawn, but then he didn't really exploit it. And well, some more inaccurate moves, but he finally gives me the pawn. And so once again, I'm in a winning situation here. And there's some interesting moves here. Yeah, right here. This is losing for him because it's pulled his bishop out of play, and now I can just run the c pawn, and yeah, c3 is the top choice here. The bishop moves are just some preliminary moves to support that, but the pawn can just run right away with c3. And instead, well, I was bringing my king over to play the end game, which is a general rule, a good idea. But of course, this is one of those cases where if you have a passed pawn, it really should be pushed. So I guess the rule is if you have a passed pawn, you should push it whenever it's safe, something like that. The full version of the rule. Okay, but I have this outside protected passed pawn. So I'm in good shape for the endgame anyway, and I should go on to win this. But there's a lot of maneuvering and back and forth, and after a few exchanges, I'm still okay here. But it's starting to go downhill. Now c3 is a good idea. Here his bishop is in the way, so it's not a home run, but it is maybe opening up a square for my king to penetrate. Yeah, I wasn't sure about pushing right there. So this trade is still okay. So at what point does this become a draw? Right there. Okay, so I'm winning all the way up to this point, and then I need to play a king move here. King d5. Let's go ahead and put that on the board. So he's going to take my pawn, and then king takes e5. And so I guess, there was no way for him to protect his pawn, and I can protect mine. So if we this is one of those endgames that's winning because the bishops are the same color, and my king is in a good position. So so this pawn is going to stop his pawn from coming forward. This pawn is protected, and I should be able to use Zugzwang or something like that. But yeah, the engine is finding a win right here. Let's play on a few moves, see if we can figure out the technique here. Bishop to b1. He wants to keep pressure. I mean, a little bit tied down. He's got two pieces attacking this pawn, and I've got two pieces defending it. So bishop to d5, giving up the pawn. This is interesting. So if he takes the pawn, bishop to e4, pins. Pins the bishop. And the exchange is in my favor because I queened first. Yeah, and I have plenty of time to stop him. Okay, well, that's interesting. So I don't know if I would have spotted that during the game, but that's a neat trick. So it looks like I'm tied down defending the pawn, but because of the way the pieces are set up here, I actually have time to move my bishop around. And if he doesn't take the pawn, what's he going to do? It's suggesting king g7. Just, it seems like kind of an aimless move. Or bishop c2 maybe, trying to stay in line with my pawn. I go bishop e4 anyway and force a trade and get into that winning king and pawn endgame. So that's the way to win this game here. Just king d5 is the winning move. So the move I played, bishop f7, I was trying to hold on to all my pawns, but now this is probably a draw. He goes there, I drop back. e6. Yeah, e6 was premature. So what's his strategy here? Bishop b1, probably just sitting on the position. He can't do a whole lot, but he can try and prevent me from making progress. So he pushed on a little bit carelessly, and now I get my king into the game. And no, it's still drawn here. So let's go forward to the point where, okay, it's this move that loses. So he gets his king out of the way. This is kind of a logical move. He wants to get his king out of the way and push this pawn forward. This is one of those positions where he can't really do anything. So the chess engine is suggesting king f6 or bishop c2, which are basically nothing moves, just sitting on the position, and then anything else loses. So after king d8, finally, finally I can win by going forward with my pawns and my king. I decide to go forward with the king. My bishop is always here, preventing his pawn from becoming a queen, and I'm going to have two pawns against his bishop, which won't be able to stop both of those pawns, and his king is going to be out of play, and that's how the end game goes. So I chase his bishop a little bit, He sacrifices his bishop there, but it would have been a loss anyway. So, for example, let's see, after he pushes and I go here, he moves the bishop, I push. Oh yeah, he really has to take right away, or I'm going to queen. So that was forced. And my pawns run ahead of his king, so this is an easy to win endgame. And he resigned at this point. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that, found it a bit interesting or informative. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.